Hello everybody and welcome to another watercolor greeting card tutorial. We are going to be painting this sunflower birthday card, but you can make this any greeting card you want. You can replace happy birthday with anything. The main focus is our sunflower. So I've drawn out or penciled out a little sunflower for myself. You don't have to do that ahead of time, but I think it makes it a little bit easier. You just draw a quarter of a circle in the corner of your piece of paper with a bunch of petals, some of them overlapping and some of them not. And it's quite simple. We are just going to start with the center of our flower here, and we're going to use brown watercolor mixed with a little bit of black. Your brown might be the appropriate hue already, so or the appropriate intensity, so you may not have to add any black, but mine is really close to an orange, so I do like to darken it a bit with a little bit of black. So the way that we are painting the center here is I'm just covering it with the pigment that I created out of the black and the brown. And while it's still wet, I'm just lifting off some portions of it because we want it to look 3D, like there's a bunch of lowlights and highlights and shadows, and there isn't really a technique to this. You just kind of keep repeating the same steps over and over until you're happy with how it looks. So dotting random areas, picking up some watercolor, adding some darker, like some black in some areas. Lifting off watercolor. And while this is doing its thing, we're just going to move on to the flower petals. And I'm going to be using a combination of orange and yellow. So I'm just going to start off, ooh, that is nice and intense. Going to start off with this guy, and I'm only going to paint the top, because then I'm going to move into my darker yellow or even some orange to create this gentle gradient between the two. And I'm going to end it in brown. There we go. And I'm going to move on to the next one, the next petal, doing the exact same thing. I'm just skipping one of the petals here because they're overlapping, so this one is overlapping, so I just need the other two to dry before I can do that one. We are going to be going over them with a black fine tip marker or pen if you don't have a marker, so you don't have to worry about being too precise, because the black marker at the end, we're going to outline everything. It's going to kind of make it come together. You can just use your discretion. Like, these two are overlapping, but I'm painting them together because why am I painting them together? That is the question. Actually, the more I think about it, I think you can just paint them all together since we are going to be going over them with a marker. I don't know how other watercolor teachers or YouTubers or whatever, how they do their tutorials, but I don't practice what I'm painting before I paint it. I just paint it kind of live. I'm trying it out live, and if it doesn't work out, it never sees the light of day. You guys never see that tutorial if it doesn't end up working out. So I've seen other YouTubers show what they've painted first, like, and then they paint it again. But to me, that's just kind of a waste of supplies. It's a waste of paper. Like, watercolor paper is very, very expensive, so I'm not going to paint something twice if we can just learn together. And that's why you hear me a lot of the times backtracking on certain things that I've said, because I'm kind of experimenting as I'm going. To make it look a little bit more realistic, you can paint the petals that are being overlapped a little bit darker so that it looks like there's a shadow being generated from the overlapping petals. So I've painted this one a little bit darker, and I'll probably go in and paint this one a little bit darker. This one a little darker. I'm going to go back in to my center here because when watercolor dries, it doesn't dry with the same intensity that you originally painted it. So we are going to go over it again just to intensify the center. Okay, so we're going to let this dry and then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, so once it's dry, we can go ahead and take either a fine black tip marker, a black pen, pencil, crayon, whatever you have laying around, and we're going to outline every part of our sunflower. So I'm just starting with the flower petals. And you're just trying to do your best to go over your flower petals as accurately as you can. I know in a lot of my tutorials, I always say, oh, it's okay, you know, if it goes out of the lines and so on. And it is. It'll still look great, but for this one, we're trying to make it a little bit more uniform and less artsy, or less chaotic, I guess. So do try to follow the outlines as closely as you can. So I've gone over my petals here, and now for the center part, I'm gonna not outline it perfectly. I'm going to try and make it look like a sunflower center. So I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit so you could have a better idea of what I'm doing here. So the outline here is not going to be perfectly straight. I'm almost going to dot it, sort of like this, because I wanted to make it look like there are sunflower seeds sticking out. And I'm just doing the same thing on the center. I'm dotting random portions of it, especially going over the places that I already added black, and I'm just adding even more black on top but I'm doing it in a way that it's just like an accent black rather than, you know, recovering the same area that I already did. And if you'd like, you can even add black lines coming from the middle part extending into your petals. Like so. And the last step is, of course, to write our birthday greeting, or whatever greeting that you're choosing to write. So I'm going to write happy birthday. I'm just going to actually switch my markers, my fine tip markers, to one that's a little bit thicker. And I've already penciled out my birthday greeting before going over it in the black pen or the black marker, just because it's always good to have your letters in the position and configuration that you want them, so that you don't draw them on or write them on in a way that you don't like. So that is basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this birthday card or greeting card tutorial. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.